Happy New Year and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Danielle Inspires. Today's inspirational message is all about authentic spaces, and because I firmly believe that I should practice what I preach, I'm excited to show you my recent German Schmear campaign. To schmear or not to schmear? That is the question. Lastly, I'm going to provide you with some inspired action steps or power moves to get you in action and moving towards greater possibilities in your home. A new year can mean a new you if you focus your efforts in the right direction by creating authentic spaces in your home. Your home should be your sanctuary. Of all the places on earth, your home is one of the places where you should find peace, comfort, and security. For many people, however, their home is their hell. Their ecosystem is toxic, and in one way or another, that environment is killing who they are. COVID-19 has truly exacerbated the problem of toxic home environments. If your home was your sanctuary pre-pandemic, then spending time at home might feel glorious during the pandemic. But if being home was like living in hell pre-pandemic, then spending more time confined to those four walls might make you feel like a POW behind the Iron Curtain. Let me take you back in time to the reign of King Hezekiah. During King Hezekiah's reign, God sent the prophet Isaiah to the king with some grave news. Isaiah 38:1 reads, "In those days Hezekiah was sick and near death. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, went to him and said to him, Thus says the Lord, set your house in order, for you shall die and not live." King Hezekiah believed the prophet's words and immediately prayed for God to relent and allow him to recover from his illness and live. God relented, adding 15 more years to the king's life. But here's where the king acted foolishly. He didn't take the whole of God's proclamation to heart. He only heard, "For you shall die." He didn't hear, "Your house is in chaos and you don't have long to live, so act with haste and bring about order." Now, I understand more pressing matter is to avert death, but once the death sentence had passed, the king should have focused his efforts in the right direction and transformed his home into a sanctuary. Who knows, maybe it was his toxic environment at home that was killing him. God prevented Hezekiah from dying, but his house was still out of order. In the very next chapter of Isaiah, chapter 39, we learn that Hezekiah opened his home to the son of the king of Babylon. He walked him through every space from room to room. Because King Hezekiah's house was not in order, his grand tour revealed his vulnerabilities. As a result, Isaiah visited the king yet again for another word from God. Isaiah 39 verses 5 through 7 states, "Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house and what your fathers have accumulated unto this day shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, says the Lord. And they shall take away some of your sons whom will descend from you, whom you will beget, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." God's word came to pass, and the dire consequences which impacted the entire nation of Israel could have been averted if the king had got his house in order. Similar to King Hezekiah, you are the queen or king of your domain, which is your home. What happens between those four walls is your responsibility. So let me ask you, is there peace in your home? Are the inhabitants in your household prosperous and happy? Listen, whatever you can reasonably demand of your ecosystem, it should provide. And if it does not, then it is out of order. If there's no peace, if there's no joy, if there's no prosperity, if there's no comfort, then your home is not serving you. It's killing you. On a grander scale, we can see that the United States is out of order. Trump had the power to stop needless deaths relating to the pandemic, but he refused to act. He had the power to ease racial and political tensions, but refused to use his power and authority to usher in peace and prosperity. The United States is out of order, and of course it's easy to point the finger at Trump. However, let's look in the mirror and reflect on our domains, our homes. Have you tolerated disorder in your home? I have. I didn't necessarily feel powerless to change anything. I just didn't bother trying, just like Trump. In 2020, as I began to laser focus on my personal growth, I started to live in my truth more often. Not frequently, just more often than normal. In some of those moments, my truth would say, I really don't like this space, or I would really love to bring this decor into the room. In other words, my internal growth began to demand to live in spaces which resonated with my truth. Let that fact sink in. The real you, your authentic self, will not succumb to the toxins in your environment by settling for less than optimal conditions. When you stand in your truth, the real you will treat home-based disorders like the pandemic and seek to eradicate it. Knowing that lack is contagious and will spread to every aspect of your home, the greatness inside of you demands an environmental upgrade. Just a few weeks ago, I started making a list of everything that needs to be fixed, upgraded, or reimagined in my home. No lie, I lived with a bathroom sink that didn't drain properly for almost 2 years. It took me about 15 minutes to fix it after watching a few YouTube videos. I couldn't understand why this small problem of an out-of-order sink ate at my soul, but now realize that my authentic self was demanding the queen in me to upgrade my environment. Whenever I fall short of acting as an agent of change, when it's in my power and authority to do so, in a big way and in small ways, the queen in me moves to the background of my life, and then fear and apathy take her place. At times, I feel fearful about failing. At times, I feel fearful about doing anything that would prove how utterly human I really am. You know, that whole fear of failure is really the crutch of perfectionism. Perfection says, don't do it unless you can do it perfectly on the first try. Oh, that sentiment is too much of a burden to bear. In fact, it's anti-human. Humans have the capacity to learn from their mistakes and improve with practice. Perfectionism, however, demands that we get everything right the first time. To me, it's a mental disease that attacks our humanity. We are frail and imperfect. And yes, we are vulnerable. And yes, we are weak. But that's by design. You can hate God for it, or you can lean into the purpose of it. Do our weaknesses have a purpose? Absolutely. 2 Corinthians 12:9 states, and he, God, said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I would rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. When you indulge perfectionistic sentiments and shun your weaknesses, you are in essence rejecting your humanity and rejecting God's grace and power. If you believe that you have never experienced the power and grace of God in your life, perhaps it's because you aren't giving Him opportunities to show up on your behalf. Maybe you have fortified your frailties and weaknesses with man-made defenses. Perhaps you have not created space in your life for God to show up and be at home in your body, allowing Him to rest powerfully and comfortably in your humanity. I'm reminded of the fall of mankind in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve had such amazing connection with God before their fall from grace, and they could have stayed on that path of growth instead of heading down the path of perfectionism. Growing in grace is achieved by simply being human and being who you are. If we have a universal goal in life, it is to be. And in being, God's power slips through our weaknesses, making us appear to be strong and on some occasions, even godlike. I began this discussion talking about our responsibility as queens and kings in our domain to maintain peace and prosperity. Your home is your domain. It's your kingdom, whether heavenish or hellish. If there are aspects of your home irking your soul, address it. That leaky faucet and running toilet that might seem like small matters that you can ignore for months and even years, but they are physical signs of inauthentic living. If your money is acting funny, meaning your money seems to be working against you instead of working for you, you can still get the ball rolling to restore peace and prosperity by tackling what is in your power to change. I've tackled a number of projects around my house, like fixing the bathroom sink, toilet, and bathtub. Had a draining issue there, and I did all of that with no money. No one is ever powerless to change something in their lives. The key is to do what is in your power to do and to be at peace with what you cannot do. Can you take a moment and make this declaration with me? I will do what is in my power to do and be at peace with what I cannot do. Sit with that thought for a moment as we transition to the next segment of Authentic Spaces. I live and breathe inspiration because I'm aware of its power to transform my life. It fuels my creativity and keeps me on a cutting edge of innovation. In my 20s, I used to spend hours each day watching HGTV. But in that season of my life, I tuned into home decor inspiration for entertainment instead of transformation. Decades have passed since then. Yes, decades. And my focus has shifted to consuming content to fuel my purpose and passions. I've learned to either mentally or physically save content that speaks to my soul. Often I can't explain why something speaks to me, and honestly, I'm not concerned anymore with the why. Now I just take heed of being touched in some way by what I see, and I respond accordingly. If I'm in the market to buy something or make a home decor change, I do so based on an inner witness deep within me that says, yes. I've been on this path for about 5 years now of paying attention to those yeses, and I want to encourage you to do the same. The more you listen to your core voice, the louder it will become. About a year ago, while watching Fixer Upper, Chip and Joanna Gain remodeled a home using a German schmearing technique. No yeses emerged while watching that video, but I was intrigued by the German schmearing technique. Intrigue is good. It's a little seed that can sprout into something bigger down the road. Then a few months ago, I came across a video on Hanging with the Hugheses YouTube video channel called Bathroom Remodel Under $500. And they did a German schmear on a faux brick panel in their bathroom. That's when yes erupted. I know that I had to try this technique, but where? In what room? The solution was to use the technique in my kitchen. I wanted to use it on the wall facing the entrance to my home to draw the guests into the kitchen. Once they turned left into the kitchen, I wanted to give them a little more visual interest on the wall next to the sink. Here's how the project unfolded. I ordered 2 4x8 foot panels from Lowe's and had them shipped to my house. I had absolutely no tools to cut the boards, but I had no problem with investing in a few tools because improving homes is about to become a big part of my life. I needed a few supplies as well. I had a few fears about implementing this solution, though. I was a bit scared about cutting my fingers using the power tools. I was also concerned about measuring wrong and cutting jagged edges that would not fit flush against the wall. I was concerned that I wouldn't smear right and ruin the look of my kitchen, a kitchen that looked fine to me already. I could go on and on about my fears. They were present with me throughout the project. And yes, I made many mistakes in implementation. But what I've learned from being an amateur artist is that you need to learn how to turn imperfections into intentional creative twists. Let me pause here and tell you something important. This is not quite a DIY channel. This is an inspirational station. For details on how-tos for home renovations and upgrades, by all means, consult a professional. I'm an amateur, but when it comes to breathing life into others and showing them a future of greater possibilities, I'm a pro. Did I get measurements wrong? Yes. Did I have jagged edges? Yes, I did. Did I foresee every obstacle? I did not. Did I turn my mistakes into a masterpiece? Yes. And I didn't lose any fingers in the process. The steps to my German schmearing campaign included putting up the faux brick wall panels using construction adhesive and a nail gun. Then I covered the black faux grout with lightweight spackle using my fingers, which were the perfect fit for the grout lines. I initially tried using the putty knife, but most of the spackle fell on the floor. I felt more in control of the application using my 10 digits, and it worked out fine. To give the brick a whitewash, weathered, and textured look, I waited for the white grout lines to dry, and then I added spackle in random spots on each brick using the putty knife. More here, less there, etc., etc. I let the paint dry and then grabbed the white chalk paint left over from whitewashing my dining room table. I diluted it with water, 1 part water and 3 parts paint. I didn't want the wall to be super white because it was supposed to look weathered. And I did not want to put in a lot of work removing the paint from the faux bricks. Using watered down paint worked well, and I used a sea sponge to both apply and remove paint and to smooth out the paintbrush lines. The texture of the faux brick panel and the spackle really add dimension and interest to this space. It was an easy way to add what appears to be an architectural structure versus just being a focal wall. And I absolutely love the impact and visual interest my German schmearing campaign created. The wall also honors my son's heritage. I'm African American and MJ's father is part German, hence the last name Rittman. We call my son German Chocolate. Throughout his life, I've engaged MJ in moments of Black history so that he's aware of and proactively honors his heritage. The German Schmear campaign was about honoring his German heritage, though. You're welcome, son. So your first action step is to make a list of everything in your home that needs to be fixed, upgraded, or reimagined. As the king or queen of your domain, it's your responsibility to make note of the issues in your kingdom. Please don't take this step lightly. This comprehensive living document is your way of confronting these household issues. If you don't confront them, you won't change them. Number 2, if you're not sure what is required to bring order to each item, then do some research. Whatever you need to know can typically be found on the internet, and researching is one of the free actions that's in your power to do. Number 3, decide which items on your list are in your power to change in the next 30 to 60 days and which ones will take longer than 60 days. For some of you, the neighborhood, city, state, or perhaps the country you are living in cannot serve you in this next phase of life, and you need to plan to move. Moving is probably going to be more than 60 days, but painting your kitchen can probably take place in 30 to 60 days. Number 4. Now, number 4 might sting a little bit, but put on your big girl pants and put on your big boy undies and get it done. Allocate spending towards home improvement. I know you want to take that vacation and keep your entertainment and dining out budget where it is right now. However, as the king or queen of your domain, you must exercise fiscal responsibility and do what is right to ensure the peace and prosperity of your kingdom. Number 5, get busy updating and upgrading your home. Enough said. Get it done. I've given you scriptural references spelling out your responsibility to get your houses in order. As the queen or king of your domain, it's your duty to ensure that peace, prosperity, and order reign in your home. I've also provided you with real-life examples from HGTV, Hanging with the Hugheses, and my own kitchen, showing you the impact of upgrading your sanctuary. Now it's your turn to be in action, creating authentic spaces in your home. Authentic spaces allow your energy to flow freely within your home and returns to you with enhanced new vigor. When your energy doesn't flow freely, little things, and I do mean little things, exhaust and frustrate you. It takes you more time and more energy to do small tasks, which discourages you from tackling bigger projects. Your home is meant to serve your needs. As your sanctuary, your home should energize you, fueling your life with positivity from corner to corner, from room to room. Thanks for tuning in this week to Danielle Inspires. If you feel ready to turn this inspiration into action, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the alert button to get notifications about newly released content. Most importantly, be bold, be great, and be inspired. I'll see you next week.